Thank you so much for joining us this morning in California, this afternoon in Indiana, and this evening in London. My name is Dr. Patrick Businge, live from Greatness TV, and I'm very pleased to introduce you to Sir Clyde Rivers, the world's civility leader. Sir Clyde Rivers, two-time American winner of the Presidential Award, but at the same time, Nelson Mandela winner. So we are here, and in the middle of us is a great man that Sir Clyde Rivers is going to introduce to us. Sir Rivers.
Ladies and gentlemen, you will be blown off your socks today. We have Greg Dillon. He is the 64-year-old motivational leader of the world. Not motivation, motivational. Greg is a black belt expert in karate, and Greg can actually walk up a pole with his arms straight. He's 64. He is the world's greatest 64-year-old motivational man I know in the world. Mr. Dillon, great having you on the Greatness Show today. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. I am delighted to be here. I am so honored.
Thank you.
Well, it's always a great pleasure and privilege when great people meet. So one of the keywords as Sir Rivers was introducing you was motivational. It's not motivational, but motivational. M-O-T-O-R, vational. What does this mean?
Well, I guess that means that my motor never stops running, so I don't know. I grew up on my granddad's farm in southern Indiana in the 60s, and where we learned to work actually on the farm, and you had to do different things, and I just, maybe I'm too hard-headed to quit. I don't know. So my motor never stops running, and Dr. Rivers came up with that analogy, so we'll go with it.
Patrick, what it is he's movement is everything in life. When you stop moving, you die. And what he's done with karate, have a blast with granddad. He is so motivational because he keeps it moving and I love it. He's one of the great at 64 years old. What he does with this the concept, have a blast with granddad. He has several things that he's doing. Kid civility, and Greg just never stops moving. And it's important for you as an individual to never stop moving. That's why Greg is the motivational expert in the world. Go ahead, Patrick.
Wow, thank you so much. That's really awesome. That's motivational, really. And one of the things you talked about is that Greg can walk on his hand straight, and that has to do with karate, his karate career. So, Greg, tell us about you and how you got interested in karate. You've just told us you grew up in your parents' farm in India. How did it move from the farm to karate?
Well, all my dad and my uncles were all military veterans. And I said, I grew up on my granddad's farm, and in the barn, you could see the U.S. Army burlap, what they call it, the rucksack, or the big, and it was filled full of burlap feed sacks. And, if it's hanging there in the barn, you tend to want to punch on it or kick on it. And I actually saw my uncles do that. Their big duffel bag was hanging in the barn from when they brought back. My dad was in Korea, and I know my uncles were some in Germany and different places. So, when you're a little kid and you see that bag there, what else is it for to kick on, punch on? So that's how I kind of got started. And then there was a Japanese man in the next town. It was about 20 miles away. But I didn't even have a driver's license, but I could ride a motorcycle to the next town. And I started karate. It started at 15 years old. So now 49 years, I'm still at it. So maybe I'm just too hard-headed to quit. So that's how I got started, and that's how I'm still with it. So.
Well,
I guess that duffel bag in the barn's what got me started. So,
Well, that is interesting. So, did you go on to win lots of karate championships and different countries doing karate?
I never uh, competed overseas. I've taught overseas with my instructor, Grandmaster George Dillon, but I never actually went competed overseas. I fought tournaments in several different states and in America, but won a lot of trophies. But I knew early along that I'm only 5'6". I'm not as tall as Dr. Rivers, so I knew the actual self defense was what I needed in my life as far as the martial arts. And they talk about your legacy. Well, my legacy was self-defense. And then I've got a daughter and I've got granddaughters and grandkids. So that's what I want to do. I want to train women to be safe, and it's more about awareness than it is actual hands-on. Let's teach them to be aware. Let's teach them to stay out of the situation. Just like kids, let's teach them to be safe. Let's teach them to understand the situation, to know the situation, so they can stay out of the bad spots. That's kind of how it got started and where it's at today.
Wow, that is very powerful, because when you look at the world today, there's a lot that we need to learn from people like you. People have gone through life experience, but at the same time been transformed by their life experience. And you're saying your legacy, part of your legacy is a karate. So what are the kind of the skills that you got through karate and that can help young people, children today, to live their best life?
Well, karate is helpful because that's the part of the motivation. Kids need to be able to be fit, to do whatever they can do, to be healthy. That's part of civility. We have to be nice to ourselves. We don't also need to be nice to other people. We need to be nice to ourselves. That's civility is the same thing. We have to eat good food. We have to take care of ourselves. We have to do the things that we can do. Being nice to yourself first. And that means working out, and the martial arts are good for that, for the kids. And then we take that to another level. That's how I always perceived it.
Oh, yes, that's very important when it comes to civility. And Sir Rivers is trying to join us. I think we've just lost connection with him, but I think he'll be with us very soon. But one of the key things you talked about that civility is about being nice to people. And I guess you can be easily successful in karate without civility. So civility is a key element for karate, people who train in karate. Is that true?
Well, civility is the key to anything. So you go into a karate school probably to learn to defend yourself, or because you want to win a bunch of trophies. But you'll find out very quickly that if you're not in good shape, if you're not nice to yourself and your own body, then you're not going to get very far. So that's where we have to progress that. Some people can't do 5 push-ups, and you do a lot of calisthenics in a lot of karate schools to get in shape. Well, if you can't do 5, let's start with 1. Let's work up from 1. Let's do 2, and then we progress with the punches, the kicks. Let's get them in shape. That way, we learn a mindset. That's where the civility comes in, and with the mindset. Your mind can stop you from doing a lot of things. So if we train our minds, then we have a better chance at surviving any situation.
Wow. Is great. Thanks so much for sharing that nugget of wisdom. So one of the things that you do as well is to work with the young people, child civility. So what led you to child civility as opposed to adult civility, as opposed to other elements of business civility and so on?
Well, it's all about keeping kids safe. I have a daughter, I have 2 stepsons, I have grandchildren, I have 2 great granddaughters, and we want them to be safe. We want them to not go places, and we don't want them to get hurt in a swimming pool, to get hurt on the playground. Home civility. I'm a industrial firefighter where I work, so I have a program this is all done with my granddaughter Belle. She's the star of the program. It's called, Have a Blast with Granddad, but Granddad's got to have a grandkid there beside him. And I've got those of all different ages. So that's where we go from that. But, just teach them common sense safety tips. And then from there, we teach them to be nice to each other, to be nice to other people. And that's where it has to go.
Well, that is, let me see if we can bring in Sir Rivers. He's trying to join us and he keeps, hello, Sir Rivers. Is trying to connect. So yeah, that's great. How did you come up with the title "Have a Blast with Granddad"?
Well, I did this about 25 years ago with my daughter. We called it all different things, but you used old VHS tapes and all that. We didn't have this computer where you could stream it all over the world. And my daughter got older and she got doing other things. So we kept doing this, and she was doing, women's self-defense programs with me. But then as I got, grandkids, we've got to keep them safe too. So then we just, it's a whole different world. It's different for every generation. Like I said, I grew up between a cornfield and a coal mine in southern Indiana in the 60s. So that was my mentality. But when I go to the city, to other places, we've got to learn a different mindset everywhere we go. It's all in your heart. It's all in your gut. If you go somewhere and you think that's not a safe place for me to be, walk back away from it. Get out of the way. It's a lot in your heart and in your mind, what you need to do. And then just, let's do this with the kids. Let's get the kids involved. Have a blast with Granddad. I'm just the narrator. The grandkids make it work. And I've got some other grandkids coming up that are going to be fantastic at this. They're into science and dinosaurs and tornadoes and everything else. So when Nevaeh comes up and wants to be on this with me, we're going to talk about all kinds of things.
Patrick, can you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, you can hear me. I'm having a hard time. It won't let me log back in with the video, but it's okay.
Well,
I can still ask questions.
Yes.
Okay.
Welcome back. Ask us.
Thank you. So, Greg, how do you see Have a Blast with Granddad? How is that gonna affect generational relationships?
Well, our kids are born every day. So, little kids turn into older kids turn into teenagers, and then college students, and then parents and business people. So you get it in their mindset from the start, and then they just, let's keep this going. And at first it's come down to civility. Let's learn to be nice to people. Then if we can be nice to everyone, then maybe we don't have to do with all the safety, like playground safety, safety everywhere you go. If everybody could be nice to each other, we wouldn't have to worry about all the other things. So that's where I think the generations come in. We've got 3 different generations right here. I'm the old generation here. I'm the pencil and paper.
And Greg, this is why I see what you're doing with this initiative and this work is so vital, because we have to lay a new platform, because obviously the one that's working now, Greg, we have to create a whole nother thought pattern. Where do you think, Greg, is the big divide we have with the old and the new generation? What are the issues that keep generations not working together?
Mm-hmm. Well, there is a culture gap. The younger kids, they know more stuff. They have the technology. They have technology at their fingertips. In the older generation, we don't know how to do that. So if we can come together and learn these things together, then I think we have a much more, there is a culture gap, there is a generation gap. So like I said, that's why the old granddad here is working with his grandchildren, and maybe the kids will see this and they'll learn from Belle, they'll learn from Nevaeh, they'll learn from Johnny. I say, well, it's okay to grandmother.
Okay.
Oh,
Go
yes.
ahead, Patrick.
And also, when thinking about growing up, there are lots of things we used to do growing up, which young people now have no clue, for example. So there's that kind of the ability to learn from the young people, but at the same time, the young people learning from us. For example, how do you climb
So
the
that's where I
tree?
see
Most of
this
the young
all.
people growing up in the developed countries, or what they call the developed countries, they have no clue of those kind of skills. So there's that as well, as I was saying, that the young people are learning from the old people, but the old people as well learning from the young. So how do you see that moving forward? Because sometimes it's very hard for us, old people, in a way, to be taught by young people. We think we know it all. Do you think there's a need for cultural shift, mind shift? In other words, yes, so you have to come to that level and learn from this child who is giving me a great skill about IT or how to create a website and online marketing and so on. So Rivers,
Yes, yeah, I'm still here. Greg, can you
I
hear that?
think I think he is as well. There's some technical problems
A
here we're
disconnect. Okay.
having.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. You know, Patrick, I think that's a major that's it's a major issue because in every generation we have three generations, and
Hmm.
the power of three generations in one, if it's ever harmonized the right way, will be priceless. But many
Hmm.
times there's a disconnect in the actual listening, and when that, man, if we can build that, Patrick, to where everyone can hear on how to move things forward, that is something that we need to do, and that really impacts our future of our world in a great way if we don't have that dialogue.
Oh, oh yes.
Greg, are you
Hello. Yes.
back?
Not yet. He's not yet back. But one of the key things that you're talking about is dialogue. But that dialogue comes down with civility, as Greg was saying. We need civility. We need the ability to understand each other, where we are and where we need to move forward. But remember as well the role of granddads in our lives. Most of those stories, the power of storytelling, you know,
Mm.
how to tell a story and tell it dramatically. When you think about the kind of stories growing up, I was listening from my parents and great grandparents or the people, the elders in the village, and how were they told with stories with expression, and you could see live in your imagination. Of course, those days there were no TV, no such thing as TV. So that's one of the key other skills that we think that the when we're having a blast with granddad, that we really need to capture, that we don't let it go, because us now, for example, my generation, when it comes storytelling, I would struggle. I struggle to tell it the way they would tell
Mm.
it.
Yeah, yeah. No, Patrick, I think that's so important. And Dr. Businge, you know what's important is many times when you talk to the person that has the experience, you get a different knowledge.
Hmm.
Have you learned that in life when you're talking to a person that has done the job, that has the experience, they give you a different reality. Have you noticed that?
Yes, it have. And actually, that leads me to one of the things that one of the quotes they had this morning, that when you tell a story, the story is stored in the heart. When
Mm.
you give information, the information is stored in the head.
Wow.
So if you want to change someone, you tell a story because it goes straight to their heart, rather than just giving information which will be in the head and won't possibly make any impact, because people are mostly they move by the heart rather than by the information they get. If the real transformation has to happen, that we have to have that aspect of heart speaking to heart. We are speaking to the hearts of the people and can only achieve that by telling a story that goes straight into the heart, rather than giving them information which stays in the head and disappears after some time.
Wow, wow. You know what? And this is what's important about Greg. See, Greg, as the 64-year-old motivational person, this guy is fit. And we talked about the importance of movement. We talked about
Mhm.
the importance of keeping your body moving, dealing with the kids, bringing the next generation. So Greg is basically motivating a lot of things. Have a blast with actually granddad to have a grandparent that's fit enough to go out and play with you, because in his life he's had discipline, he's had
Mhm.
structure to help him stay fit and keep moving. And see, if as he can encourage other grandparents to, hey, stay fit, keep moving, stay involved in the life of your kids and their kids. See, this is what I love about motivation with Greg. And I mean, when you see a 64-year-old man walk up a pole with his hands, that's Patrick. I can't do that now.
I wouldn't dream of doing it. I haven't done the karate. I don't have the karate skills,
And,
but still
and
open to learn. Definitely
yeah,
open to learn, and that's why I wanted to get from Greg to learn from him. He's not yet on.
yeah, and
Might
again,
be waiting for his granddaughter to connect him again.
see, and watch this here. This is a prime example of how the generations can work together.
Exactly.
It's-
Yeah, it is powerful. Yes.
so
So
Patrick, so Patrick, you were talking about storytelling.
yes,
That's a component that I believe we have to bring back for our generations. What do you think?
I think we'd need to actually. Like, today was talking to one of the officials from Toro Kingdom, and he was asking me, "What do you think as a kingdom we should do?" I said, "Look, we need to bring back the moments when, at the end of the day, everyone in the family they would gather and talk about their day. They would gather and tell stories. They would gather, exchange ideas, and tell proverbs and riddles and songs and dance. You know, the whole life was lived around the I'm going to call it campfire or bonfire. Okay, because think about it, before the invention and the arrival of the electricity to power the houses, arrival of the starting to use kerosene or paraffin in lighting up the homes as well. There was no other thing people would be able to have light in the house than them putting light outside in the courtyard, and everyone else sitting around the fire at the end of the day and talking about their day. And then the granddads or grandparents will be able to share their stories. They'll be able to tell their life experiences or the experiences they've gone in the past and how they fought with a lion, for example. So all those moments were moments of learning, moments where they'll talk about courage and how they've been transformed and what they've learned in those lifetime. But at the same time, the young people will be seated and listening carefully and learning from the elders in the community or in the family. That
Wow.
has disappeared from in other words, in our generation, we haven't seen that. All we are left with is a computer screen or a TV monitor. And when you have that remote, you can see what's happening. You have a choice of about 500 channels from. You may end up watching a Chinese channel, American channel, Japanese channel, any channel anywhere. But where those people get those children grow in that environment, getting the time to learn about their culture, about their customs, about their civilization. There are no moments. So I think what Greg is doing is very powerful, because through him we're having access to what happened in the 60s, to what happened in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, 2000, So there is a wealth of wisdom and power that is stored in what Greg has gone through and the story he can tell us be able to help us live our best lives.
Wow, wow, that is so good. And you know, have you noticed the cultural understanding of history is almost no longer there in many countries of the world? It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like, as I was stating earlier, when you talk to someone that's done the job, that has history at the job, they can become one of your greatest assets because nothing in life works according to all the rules. Does that make sense?
Yes,
So,
Greg is back as well. Greg,
I am here.
welcome back. We've been talking about your great life and about great and the power of storytelling.
Hmm?
and Greg, we want to ask you, what is one of the powerful things that like you do at how with like have a blast with granddad is you tell stories.
Hmm?
You're you and Patrick was talking about how when you Patrick, could you talk about the intellect versus a story being told? Can you explain that concept to Greg, and we'll ask him why
Oh,
his
yes.
method is effective?
We're saying that when you tell a story, you're speaking to the heart. The
Hmm?
story goes to the heart. When you give information, it goes in the head. And we're saying
Hmm?
that the best way to transmit information to the young people, because I still remember some of those stories growing up, I was
Hmm?
told by my grandparents or elders in the community. That story goes straight to the heart and is stored there and makes a movement. If it's an empowering story, it's a story of courage, a story of victory, I'll be able to remember it and help me move on. But when you're just giving me information, the information goes in the head. After some time, it disappears because it's not
Right.
anchored in my heart to move me. Because mostly people take action when you talk to the heart or hearts rather than just giving them information. What do you think?
Well, I agree with that. Everything I am passionate about keeping kids safe. And I think I use the motivation to get their attention, and that bridges the gap. You know, if I can do push ups with my great granddaughter on my back, and the kids take notice of that. He talks about, climbing the pole. It's called a human flag, and if a 64-year-old guy is not supposed to be able to do that. Now, if you can show kids what you can do, it's a visual experience for them. And I am extremely passionate about everything I do here. I had a granddaughter was killed in a car wreck by a drunk driver 4 years ago. So I want everyone to be safe. I want to teach kids and teenagers especially. Skylar's 15 years old, and she didn't come home that night because of a drunk driver. Nothing that her or the other girls had done wrong. So it comes from the heart with me. Sometimes you got
Mm-hmm.
to just sit still and listen to what the Lord's telling you. The Eagles had a song called "Learn to Be Still." Sometimes you just got to sit and be still and follow your heart and follow your mind. And this is what's I've wanted to do forever for such a long time, and now I'm getting the chance to do that with my grandchildren. And helping other grandparents and other grandkids together, and maybe they won't have to do what our family had to go through with that one incident that changed our world and our family forever, changed the entire community forever. So yes, for me it is a passion, and it is from the heart. So that's what I would say about that. And that's how I try to motivate kids by the visual storytelling. If they can see what I do, and we act out the story, we're not giving them a brochure or a bullet point pamphlet to read. We're acting out the situation. It's a visual experience. It's a visual story that we're telling. And my granddaughter Bella is great about telling that story. She just lights up the whole show, as you can see when you see the show.
You see, Patrick, and the one thing I can tell you about Greg is this, Patrick. I believe this is so vital to get out to the world because because there's a disconnect. And what I see is the older generation many times doesn't know how to tell the story that relates to building. It's actually more what actually Greg does isn't fear based. Like many times when the older generation speaks to the younger generation, it's about fear. Don't. Greg is showing them what they can do as he's explaining to them about being safe, being respectful, being responsible. So see, Greg has a different narrative. Does that make sense, Dr. Patrick?
Yes, it does, and I think it's very, very important because as we have to think about the perception that young people have of us. I work with young people. I know that one of the perception is that we always victimize them. They think we always victimize them. When something goes wrong in the community, it's attributed to the young people. Uh, so and they think that we are always looking for trouble in them rather than for the potential, rather than for achievement, rather than for purpose, rather than for success in them. So when they see us around, they think we're kind of monitoring them to see what they've done wrong rather than praising them what they've done right.
Wow.
So there's that kind of divide between the young and the elderly based on the older generation based on how they perceive us.
Man.
And changing that perception, I think, is key. So what Craig is doing with his child civility through safety and all that is to open up that conversation, but at the same time bridging the gap between the generations. That yes, we are different generations. We see safety differently. We see yes, we see safety differently. And for example, talking about information technology or using computers and so on. I'm sure those young people Greg is dealing with, they know more of child safety online than us. Why? Because they're the ones who know which button to press on or off or to access which material. But we are just learning. We don't know much.
Patrick.
Well,
Yeah.
we have to work together. See, I don't talk.
First of all,
Go
Greg,
ahead.
I would like to, Patrick, let's invite him to the Kingdom of Toro in Uganda to speak to the kids.
Oh, that would be powerful, Greg. It would be transformation, actually. Very, very. Yes, definitely. A trip worth taking. Greg, have you been to any of the African countries?
I've never been there, but I'd love to go. My passport's ready. We'll have a blast
Yeah.
with Granddad.
Oh, you will have a blast with Africa. Oh, yeah. Sir Rivers, could you tell him about the experience some of you had last year in Toro?
Oh, Greg, this is why I want you to come to the Kingdom of Toro, and we're giving you an official invitation here. It's a phenomenal kingdom, and they have the actual world's youngest king in the world in the Guinness Book of Record. He took over the actual throne at the age of 3 years old, and he's like 28 now, and he's been a king for 25 years, and he's a phenomenal man. And I think it'd be great to have you come to that kingdom as we do an actual have a blast with Granddad launch. I think that'd be great. What do you think, Patrick?
That would be very, very powerful, especially doing it in a place where the king is the world's youngest king. So there you go, having a blast not just with the granddad, but as well in Toro Kingdom, led by from 20 for the past 25 years ago, led by a child. You know, it would be a powerful experience and transformation for most people, especially with your child civility initiative, and as well them being able to say yes. this is where we need safety.
Great.
This is the kind of safety we're talking about. This is how we have to keep moving and moving to the hearts and making that transformation happen.
So what's on your heart, Greg? Greg, what are you hearing in your heart right now, Greg?
Well, I hear that I want to be, I want to teach everyone. I want to bridge the gap. I don't talk at kids. I talk to the kids. You know, when a youngster gets to be about 12 years old, they're as tall as I am anyway. So, you know, a lot of times you talk down to people and you don't know you're doing it. You talk at them instead of talking to them. And that's where having the kids with you, where you can talk to them together, or you can have like Belle, she's talking to the kids and I'm facilitating or narrating the story. And, you know, we work together and other kids too. It doesn't have to be your grandchildren. It can be, you know, let's work with other kids. Let's get so many kids involved and let's have a blast.
Brilliant.
Nice. Thanks so much, Greg, for sharing your story. It's been a great experience having you on Greatness TV live from London. And we look forward to welcoming you to the World Book of Greatness as well, where we'll document your life, we'll document your initiative so that as well it can go out to the world in a very powerful and meaningfully transform the world. So, Greg, in the meantime, how can we get in touch with you?
Well, we've just launched a website called haveablastwithgranddad.com. I'm not sure it's up yet. We did that last week. My granddaughter created a logo. One created a logo for Have a Blast with Granddad. My other granddaughter created the motivational, the motivator. It looks like a Harley Davidson motorcycle. And we're just about to be up and running. So yeah, I believe haveablastwithgranddad.com will be ready here in a couple of weeks, and we'll put the content on that Sir Rivers and I had talked about, and we're ready to go. Belle's ready, Daisy's ready. My great granddaughter Nevaeh, she's ready. Now Nevaeh, that's heaven spelled backwards, you know, and she's all into dinosaurs and science. So. And that's what kids need. They need science.
So good. So good.
Could you give us a glimpse of what you intend to do with Have a Blast? Is it a program? Is it a TV show? Is it a discussion with young people? How is the whole initiative practically being launched or done?
Well, I believe we'll start with 3 to 5 minute spots on each safety initiative that we want to do. And we'll probably have a program called Ask Belle, you know, where you can put in questions and Belle will answer them. And Belle and I will answer them together. Like I said, we'll get the other kids and grandkids involved and just different scenarios that we want to do. And if something comes up in the world, you know, we had a big hurricane in the Gulf Coast. So how do we react to the hurricane? Well, we come up with common sense solutions so that the kids don't get afraid and scared about it. And we'll work with that. You know, it's all common sense. If you really, you know, tear it down to the nuts and bolts, it all comes down to civility, to being nice and using common sense, using your mind.
That is powerful. Common sense, but not always common practice. So
Right.
basically, you want us to get this common sense and practice.
I love that, Patrick. And Greg, we will put together a time for the Kingdom of Toro in Uganda as well. That's
All right. Thank you.
Because I want to see the continent of Africa really begin to see how Patrick, wouldn't it be great to have a night there where like stories are being told?
That would be great. Yes. Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. And have a blast with Granddad. And actually, this what I'm saying here is that as well the granddads can have a blast together. It's not just having blast children. You think about the granddad in America telling their stories, and the granddads in Africa telling their stories as well from that from India, from Europe. you can imagine the wealth of storytelling, the wealth of wisdom that can be transmitted on that night. Like have a blast with Granddad or global world conference.
Yes.
We get like 5 or 10 granddads doing this.
Greg, are you listening?
I hear you.
Oh my
I
God.
hear you.
See, and you know, and Patrick, Dr. Patrick, Greg is the right one. Uh, if
Mhm.
you're around him for 10 minutes, he lifts you. All he does is lift people.
Yes, you can feel
You
it.
can feel it, and his attitude is so that everyone's back. He's the perfect one for this initiative. He's perfect because at 64 he has life. Life is not negative. He's been through tragedy, but he got back up, and he's still looking to empower people. So this is why I'm so excited about getting his initiative into Africa and different people, and his initiative is still being built because what we want to do, we want to
Mhm.
contextualize it for wherever we go. It needs to be contextualized and not come with
Yes.
iron cookie cutter. You know what I mean, Patrick?
Yes, definitely. And I think it is going to be powerful because it's the only one. It's the first one I met. I don't think there's anyone yet.
What I tell you, Greg.
This could end up in the Guinness. Of course, it is going to be in the World Book of Greatness. There you go. We don't need the Guinness Book of Records for this. We have it.
uh, Greg, any last words you want to say to encourage people out there? And is there anything you want to say, Greg?
Well, I was driving up to my daughter's house to do this, and I heard a song on the radio. Now, I don't think it's a quote, and I didn't get the artist's name, but it said, "May you be the spark that sets the world on fire. Find in your heart all that God desires. Dream as big as you want to. There's nothing you can't do when you believe that God believes in you." And when I first started learning that a few years back, that's how I met Dr. Reuben West. That's how I met Sir Clyde Rivers. When I finally understood that people believed in me. And that's where I'm at today, and that's what I'd like to leave you with.
My goodness.
When you believe that God believes in you, you'll set the world on fire.
Wow. Wow.
Powerful. Thank you so much, Greg. Sir Rivers, do you have a plenary? Do you want to say the last word before we end the show?
Greg, thank you for opening a whole new world for people that are a bit older that still want to leave something impactful in the world. You're a pioneer with this. Thank you for all you've done, and thank you for all we're going to do. And Dr. Businge, thank you for the greatness concept, the Guinness Book of Greatness, the book that you've created so that great lives don't die, they multiply. And man,
Wow.
thank you so much.
Exactly. That's powerful. Thank you so much, Sir Rivers, and thanks so much for the support and the interview that we just had with the one and only Greg Dillon, live from Indiana. Have a blast with Granddad Initiative, aimed at children, aimed at child safety, aimed at child civility. And for more information, find out at haveablastwithgranddad.com website when it goes live. And looking forward to seeing you again on Greatness TV next weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And have a
Thank
great
you,
day.
Greg.
Bye.
Thanks, Dr. Patrick.
Thank you.